So, hi and welcome to another practice run of a 1 hour race in Path of Exile using a Freezing Pulse Witch. This is the first practice run I can really say that has gone pretty well and I'm reasonably happy with. Beginning, Twilight Strand, same deal as usual, basically just run to Hillock. I actually had one run the other day where I had a really short instance and I killed Hillock really fast. He just, for whatever reason, wasn't stunning me at all, so I wasn't being stuck in a recovery frame. So, yeah, I killed him really quickly. It's like, wow, if that had actually been a real race, that could have been a competitive completion time for Hillock. Even though Witch isn't generally the fastest completer, but I don't know. It seemed like a very nice run, and yeah, business as usual. Getting a coral ring so I don't die horribly very shortly into this. One good thing you can do is just kind of remember the positions of the gems that you're planning on getting. If you're able to look ahead of time, you could just grab them, like that case, Freezing Pulse is the middle one. Unless they patch and change it, it will always be the middle one as far as I know, so you could just grab the middle one. This could also potentially screw you over if you get the orders mixed up and you end up with the incorrect gem. Like, if I had gotten Summon Minion there by accident, it would have been a start over, because that would have been completely and utterly useless. Even in a real race, it would have been worth starting over, rather than going forward with Summon Minions. So, same deal as usual. Get level 2 in terraces. For future purposes, I might start trying to do this here in Mudflats, since they'll be worth more, but I'll be a little weaker at the same time, so it goes both ways, but they still hurt a little bit, and they're resistant to cold regardless, so not entirely sure how that would work out. If I could find a nice group of zombies, that would work spectacularly. Like, I found 2 or 3 big groups already in here. But the Roas are pretty dangerous. And hopefully I won't miss anything. I am jotting down some notes as I'm rewatching this for my own purposes as well. I'm doing post-commentary, which should be obvious by the sped-up and in-sync commentary. Or the sped-up video, rather, in the in-sync commentary. Level 3 in Roas. At this point, the 5-minute mark just passed. I'm actually more or less on the same speed as the level 1 Witch, or the Witch that finished first overall. For the last 1 hour race, I believe it was 13. Season 1, race 12 was the last solo race, as of this practice run and recording. And so we're in the lower submerged passage. I horribly screw up the mapping here, or pathing through the map here. 3 paths. I decided to split it down the middle, and it's a dead end. What can you do? Kill some elite mobs and find the flooded depths. So it's back to the other paths. So of course I go down the dead end again. So yeah, good advice there. Don't go down the same dead end repeatedly. Yeah, it's a given. Otherwise, just every time I have a nice, decent-sized group of squids, it's just a matter of killing them. The crabs, I think, end up taking a little too long to kill just them, unless they happen to be there mixing with the squids, in which case if you kill a couple crabs, great. Upper Submerged Passage, basically the same as the lower ones, but you have Merveil's daughters, which can throw basically their own versions of Freezing Pulse at you. So you want to try to stay away from that. If you're kind of careful and you manage to dodge it, you can sneak up behind them and kill them at the same time. They're not too much harder, but you probably don't want to tangle with 2 of them at the same time. And you don't want to tangle with them if you can't get them closer, because Freezing Pulse, in this case, does more damage the closer you are. So that's why you'll notice I run up to them and turn around, so that I'm doing more damage to the daughters and killing the squids at the same time. Yeah, armor-wise, of course, I don't want to have anything equipped because it does slow you down a slight bit. I don't think in this run I end up getting movement speed boots, which is kind of disappointing. I had a really nice practice run going that I ended up dying a little later on. It wasn't too great of a run just as far as where I ended up, but there was a lot of... I thought it was a pretty solid run up until the point I died. I believe it was in the Cavern of Wrath with all the fire squids. I just got cornered in and died horribly. Talking about this run, I made it to the ledge. Gonna want to kill most of the stuff in here on the way through. And yeah, good experience to be had here. So farm all the nice big groups up. I get Fire Trap as a drop. I've been toying around with some different abilities as I went through. There was actually a practice run also where I actually found a rare bow and poison arrow, so for about 30 seconds I was running around using that. This might have been the same run I was just talking about, actually. I was using that and it's like, wait, you know what, this is kind of stupid as a... Freezing Pulse Witch run to put up using a rare quality bow and poison arrow. You're probably not going to end up with either in the course of a normal run as a witch, so it's like, 30 seconds later, it's like, yeah, screw this. I killed like a pack of mobs, if that. And of course, I was trying to remember exactly how to use it, so I probably wasted more time than I would have gained. But as soon as I get the ledge waypoint, I go back to the Mudflats to head here to the title island to complete the medicine chest quest, Mercy mission. Or to get the medicine chest for the Mercy mission quest, which will give me a Quicksilver Flask, which is very important. Movement speed is probably about 20% of how well the race will end up going. Hellrake fights, I always have some issues with. It's like, I don't want to get close to the huge mob if I get frozen, and of course I end up getting frozen half the time anyway, and almost dying regardless. So it's like, I never really know the best way to do these fights. If you can get Hellrake clear in a straight line and just shoot him from far away, that works great. But otherwise, you generally just want to do whatever, just to kill him. If you can get in melee range, he's not particularly difficult as long as you've got a Coral Ring and some other little goodies here and there. I end up grabbing Firestorm and Fire Trap, Ice Nova. I've been playing around a little bit with Ice Nova. It is nice after you get 2 or 3 levels into it. And, of course, I forget to reset the instance. So I have to head back to Lion Eyes Watch and reset it. Ice Nova is nice when you're kind of having stuff in all different directions. At level 1, when you first get it, if you're getting it off a quest later on like I did, it's not really worth using until you get 2 or 3 on it, because it just takes a little too long. But once you get those levels, if there's stuff in all directions, it's probably faster to use Ice Nova than Freezing Pulse in 3 different directions to kill 3 small groups of mobs. You also want to, once you figure out the area of effect on it, you can position yourself fairly well most of the time to get fairly large groups. That one I probably could have Freezing Pulsed, but you know what, whatever. But it is what it is. I end up farming until level 8 here. I think I do... I guess 2 full runs back and forth. So waypoint to lower, lower to waypoint, waypoint to lower, and then lower to waypoint. I don't think I do 3 full runs before moving on. I might, I don't remember. But yeah, this is kind of a long, boring part of the farm run. I had a pen around here for something I want to note on later. What else? I don't think I have a particular large amount of luck with this. I get a rare shield at some point. It doesn't have any extra... there it is. It does not have any extra spell damage on it, unfortunately. I'm looking, it's like, do I? Come on. Nah, damn, no I don't. Which is unfortunate, but it has the same amount as the wand I was using, and it has some extra stats on it and stuff, extra life and what have you. So for that reason, it's still pretty decent. Now here, this is a huge pack of elite mobs that Ice Nova, just between the freezing, stun, and stuff like that, I get through them really quickly. So it's just worth doing that. Things you want to keep out for here, you want to try to get 12% goat wands. And if possible, if you have any orbs of alchemy, they could be worth getting. You also want to keep an eye out for the next level of wands, which are... Let's see if I can... it's nice being able to switch out and look it up quick. The ledge, it's not too exciting. I can just kind of not watch, because I know how it's pretty much going to go. Scepters, staff, rapiers, axes, mauls, swords, wands, goat's horns, and carved wands. In a 1 hour race, you're pretty much not going to get up to the point of quartz wands, which are level 18. You might, but at that point, I think you're not really going to be much in need of this. So yeah, if you can get a hold of a goat's horn, or even a carved wand for level 12, which would be a little later on, you'll want to consider using some blacksmith's shards on it, or blacksmith whetstones, and if you have an orb of alchemy, or transmute to make it magical or rare quality, or even an orb of chance to take a shot at the rare, and probably end up with magic anyway. Just the biggest things you want to look out for are plus levels of gems, specifically for fire or ice. You'll still be using fire quite a bit as this, because like Merveil and Brutus, you don't want to be too close to either of them. And in Merveil's case, she's resistant to cold, so it's not particularly effective. Right there is a good example of how to position for Ice Nova. You just kind of get smack dab in the middle of a nice big group, and you just kill them all in a few Ice Novas. And then I don't know if I said it, the other thing to look out for on wands is additional spell damage effects. Goat's wands, or goat's horns, go up to, I believe, 12% spell power. And the first ones, I think, can go to 10. The driftwood ones. So I made my final run through the ledge. I didn't realize I'd gotten that far in. At this point, I don't know what level I am. I am 8 or 9. And it's time to make our way through the rocky climb. This area gets pretty nasty. There's lots of casters, lots of fire damage. If you happened across a fire resist wand, ring, it could be worth taking out some larger packs of caster goats. But you got to be careful with those little, the regular melee goats, because they will jump at you and surround you quite easily. So I took a pack down here at the end. It wasn't too big of a deal. But the archers you got to be careful with. They will cast burning arrow on you, and it will ignite you put you on fire. And while you're on fire, your potions are basically nullified. You're just kind of sitting even. You don't drain, you don't gain. Which is a problem, though, because everything will keep attacking you and just drain away. So you generally want to avoid that. And then, like, I think every single practice run I do, I have issues getting through the lower prison. Like, in a decent amount of time, I've run into a couple dead ends. And it's like, play with firestorms, like, oh, these are all resistant to cold, I should use firestorms. Like, no, I should have thrown a fire trap on the mob, a bunch of them, and used freezing pulse. And then in the upper prison, I end up going to a dead end. I don't believe it's always the same way as a dead end, but one of them is always a dead end. it will probably, most of the time, be the way you go. But it is what it is. Here, this was really risky. There's a bunch of cold mobs, and those same cold mobs are elite, so if I happened to have gotten chilled or frozen, I would have been basically dead at that point. I got lucky. I lived. Got a decent chunk of experience off of them, so it was worth it. But it's one of those risk versus reward things you'd want to think about while doing a race. Do you want to go for that and lose, in this case, 37, 38 minutes of the race? Or do you want to get a little less in that particular room, kill an extra group or two here and there, and move on? Here I made a mistake. I really should have dropped the town portal and gone back to swap, or sort of refill my quicksilver flasks. But it is what it is. Brutus fight, I'm reasonably happy with this. I think I have to go back at one point, but it goes pretty smoothly. And it's just a matter of, in the case of a freezing pulse, if you have a ton of health at this point like I do, from between the shield and the 2 coral rings I picked up, I have 194. I can tank a shot or two at close range, which I do, until I get to below 130, then I run away quick. Because Freezing Pulse does do more than Fireball. I grabbed Clarity. I don't think I ever actually use it. And then the Brutus fight, I got lucky as hell. I got 3 rare items off of it. And of course, none of them were anything useful whatsoever. And I ended up leaving them on the ground. Afterwards, I log out because the Prisoner Gate waypoint is automatically acquired. So you can just log out, go talk to Tarkley for the reward gem for it, and then right afterwards hit the waypoint and pop into Prisoner's Gate. You don't have to actually run out here. Otherwise, here, you can farm stuff reasonably easy here. You just gotta be careful about the fire left behind by the Hellions. But otherwise, you can freeze goats in midair, which is kind of neat. You just wait for a bunch of them to jump, and then start attacking them. You don't want to start attacking the first one you run across, and then have a whole bunch jump on top of you and surround you. It wasn't here. I think I have a pretty close call in here somewhere. But it's every time in this game I decide, oh yeah, maybe I'll try to get that little group while the big wolf is running around. It's yeah, okay. I got 2. That's as good as it's gonna happen, because I'm pushing my luck here big time, because she hurts a lot. So I'm just running through, killing what I can. This place is pretty decent experience. Unlike the rocky climb, there's no burning arrow archers all over the place that are gonna screw you over royally. All you have to really watch out for in the end is, like I said, getting surrounded by the jumping goats. And right there, that little group we just killed before that, 3 pairs, or the 3 elites with the crabs and the goats. I should have been using Freezing Pulse instead of Ice Nova. Here in Ice Nova is okay. I kind of got a little surrounded. A little bit of a closer call than I would have liked. And I'm pretty sure my timer is off at this point. I meant to mention also, there was 1 or 2 points in here I paused my timer that I was using to track how long I was playing for, when I was just kind of checking how much I was doing compared to some of the other players in the Season 1, Episode 12 race. So there's a couple of spots where I might have just stood still for no apparent reason. That would be why. I just was going to, it's oh, they're at 7 levels ahead of me. Well, yeah, this isn't going well for some reason. I'm going to just start over. Overall, I was keeping pretty good pace for a while. I think it was about the time of ledge farming that I started to fall behind. A lot of it depends if you find the lower submerged passage waypoint, you can get the Quicksilver Flask earlier and start farming quicker. Just little things like that can make a pretty big difference. Same thing if you have movement speed boots for your ledge farming, it makes it go a lot quicker. Not a lot, but about 10% quicker. Which over the course of 5 minutes, you're saving 30 seconds or so, which is pretty big. Especially considering at that point you're only about 15 minutes into the game, so every minute remaining you're saving 5 seconds. Or 6 seconds. And you figure, because I suck at math, you save a minute every 10 minutes, so overall you would save 5 minutes. Roughly. I don't know. You'd save minutes. Which is pretty huge overall, considering the fact that you're just wearing a boot with a particular mod. You can also get rares with, like, it goes up to 15% movement speed increase, which gets into more math I don't really feel like trying to do in my head. Here, I head back for a gem, which I can't actually get at this point, so I just look for a movement speed boots. But there are none, and apparently I got a gem for something, so I grabbed the added lightning damage, which I never actually remember to put on a gem. Or in a link slot. I had that wand, I could have used it, and I just completely spaced out on it, so I never got any use out of it whatsoever. Yeah, this is where I have a couple close calls. These ghost, spirit, specter things hurt a good amount, and here I am playing with Firestorm again. I really don't think it's even worth grabbing. If anything, it might be worth grabbing Shock Nova and Ice Nova. So if you get a bunch of squids in a, like, completely surrounding you, you can use Shock, which they're not vulnerable to. Or rather, they are vulnerable to and not resistant to. And yeah, here's one of the close calls. And of course, like, oh yeah, I'm dying, I'm running away. Oh, let's spend a skill point, why not? But I get that cold node that offers extra cold damage as well as cold resistance, which helps quite a bit for Merveil. I think I covered that a little bit in the previous video. Here, I'm debating if I want to try to kill Ambrosia, or whichever particular daughter this is. I got my armor on, and I'm Marissa, not Ambrosia. But she hurts quite a bit. It's like, oh, no, this isn't too bad. Her lightning strike don't hurt that much. And then she starts using Spark, which hurts a lot more. So it is what it is. My previous time stated is actually going to be off quite a bit. I'm going to sync this up to the end based on my timer. So it's whatever time I said earlier is actually going to be a little off. But yeah, exploding squid time, always fun. And a rare mob, nothing good of course. I have a fire resist ring. I don't remember if I equipped it or not. Or if I even remembered to equip it, or I could be thinking of a different practice run. I try to grab it because it does help with the squids. Or the exploding squids, rather. But it's not to the point where you're going to want to stand still next to them. If you have a Quicksilver charge, though, you can run past them and get out of the explosion radius before it manages to hit you. And here, it's like, oh my god, holy crap, oh my god, exploding squids, and I just barely managed to log out quick. I have to run back through an otherwise empty zone, but I managed to stay alive, which is the important bit. I could have sworn my timer stopped at 1 hour, but I guess I'm mistaken. Yeah, well, I don't know. Yeah, running through the zone. Running, and more running. Now, because I know what's coming, and most of the exploding squids were already dead from trying to kill me before, I'm actually in a good spot to kill that huge pack of regular squids. And now for the fight with Merveil. This first part is really the hard one. Ideally, you want to remember to put your cold resist ring on before you start the fight, first off. And then, I think going with a second cold resist ring, if you can, is the way to go with this. If you happen to find one, you could, I think, just out-heal her ice spikes, or ice spears, rather, just with potions. With just the one cold resist ring, especially because I have that 15% node, and I think the armor I have on also has some cold resist, so that might be a factor. But you can see here, I'm basically out healing or keeping up with the damage she's doing. These are just regular flasks and stuff too. And here I actually paused the timer. My mouse will go off screen at some point. I couldn't actually get in there for whatever reason. A lag or my computer or whatever. So there was a little pause in the timer there. And when I hit the loading screen, I unpaused the timer. But the biggest thing is, especially with a decent amount of cold resist, is just don't let her melee you. She runs close, run away. If you can, keep her standing on a fire trap. She generally doesn't cooperate with that, and otherwise just cast fireballs. I don't know if Firestorm ends up being better. There's not a lot of information on this around, and according to the forums, they recommended doing Fireball and Fire Traps, so that's what I did. For part 2, I start off by killing all the other squids, and then it's just a matter of fire trapping, and in this case I think I use Firestorm, because the AoE will take out the exploding squids as they appear. Standing next to her just has the benefit of she won't move towards you, because she will do that normally anyway. One thing I need to do, I swapped out a mana flask for a health flask for part 1, which was good, because I wasn't using mana quickly, I was using health potions a lot. For this part, when I went back during the transition from Phase 1 to Phase 2, I needed at that point to swap back to 2 mana potions rather than waiting until now. This has the benefit, however, of... Or rather, for this part, that's just the benefit of you probably won't need to go back for part 2. I think I have... Did I ditch the armor? Oh no, I ditched some other armor. I still have the rare armor somewhere. So now that could have been a mistake, depending on what I come across, but I don't know. Was hoping for more, or 4 movement speed boots. It doesn't happen, unfortunately. And other than that, I grab another cold damage node. I believe... I'm not gonna say I believe. I think that forest waypoint works the same way as the Brutus one, but I've never actually done it to confirm. This is actually one of the few runs... I'm rephrase that. This is actually only the first or second time in a 1-hour race I've made it past Merveil. Alive. There were a couple little practice runs where I was like, oh, you know what, I got 10 minutes left. I'm just gonna run back to Merveil just to get another practice run in at the fight. I didn't actually really gain any experience on the way back then. I avoided fighting, but you know, just to get a little more familiar with the fight is always good. And otherwise, it's just a matter of just letting monkeys kind of group up. I'm trying to watch and see what they're doing. When a bunch of them get near you, they tend to run away quick. So it's hard to get a big group, but using Ice Nova, I was hoping to freeze them and slow them down enough where I could just kill them all in one group. I never really had enough time to figure out which way was best. And then I have the bright idea, you know what, maybe I'll do a Fell Shrine farm here. And it's like, start running, it's like, okay, where's the waypoint? Where's the waypoint? Wait, huh? Okay, we got a big group of mobs, we can kill those, no problem. Oh, whoa, we got elite archers, oh, this isn't good. So... I, at that point, remember it's like, oh, crap, it's the crossroads, not Old Fields, so I just head back into River Crossings, hoping to get to the Dark Forest, or Western Forest, or whatever the heck comes after River Crossing. Based on the amount of time I had left at this point, I probably should have just gone back to the regular forest, but I don't think it would have gotten me an additional level either way, so it didn't particularly matter. for level-wise. Placement-wise, yeah, definitely that can make a difference. You're better off farming a spot that is slightly less than ideal for where you are, such as farming the forest rather than trying to get there when you're probably not. And then here's one of the real close calls. This stupid-ass monkey elite is chasing me all over the frickin' place. And I throw fire traps, I run in circles and throw some frost novas, and that little chime was my timer going out, or being done. But yeah, they used to play it. It's actually in-game timer apparently is 1 hour, 0 minutes. I don't know if that counts loading times and stuff like that, so that might actually be a little behind. But like I said, it was probably going to be, because I did pause the timer a couple times here and there. Yeah, I got to level 14. I pull up the stuff at some point. 14. I actually ended up, if this had been the real race, I would have placed about 301 out of 1,565 people who were participating and still alive at the end. And just strictly for witches, I placed 30th of 212, which is not bad at all, considering how most of my other runs have done. So I'm really not too far out of the top 20, which gets extra points, which would be just awesome. I was hoping to have more little notes to cover at the end, but it is what it is. So, one of the things I'm debating on is when to get level 2. Doing it in terraces is fairly safe. The zombies and the, I guess, ghouls, you would call them, are pretty easy to kill. It's just a matter of, just basically killing them. Whereas in mudflats, there are roas, which hurt a lot. If it's one of those really unlucky runs where you don't get a coral ring in Nessa's shop at the beginning, definitely get it in terraces. Otherwise, you could try it in either. Do a couple practice runs. It only takes 2-3 minutes to get to mudflats. See if you can do it consistently, and I think mudflats would actually be the better place to do it. Or you can go really crazy and wait till the lower submerged passage, but I think the roas will end up digging you level 2 before you get a chance to get that far. Dead ends. Try to remember where they are. In the, I believe, lower submerged passage, I go down the same dead end twice. The first time, okay, whatever, really no way I could have known it was a dead end. If someone more familiar with the way the maps generate might have been able to know that it was going to be there. But basically, everybody else, it's kind of like, yeah, how was I supposed to know that? You couldn't. That's pretty much it. For your ledge runs, for farming, figure out how many you want to do and when. If you get the lower submerged passage point, ideally, you would be heading back to get your Quicksilver Flask from Mercy Mission by getting the medicine chest from Hellrake. And that will make a pretty big difference for the farming runs. That extra movement speed helps a lot. You'll also get the extra gem from Tarkley for completing the Roa eggs. Or what is it? When you get the runes and put them in, then open the waterfall up, that gives you a gem also. So figure out exactly what you want to do. That first run through the ledge, either way, you're going to want to kill everything on the way to the waypoint, or at least the large groups that are grouped up tightly. If you don't have a good AoE, like I was using Ice Nova the second time, but for a small, like, I'd say even 2 mobs, not worth doing if you don't have the Quicksilver Flask just yet. But it's something you gotta kind of figure out what you want to do. No great advice there. When heading through the lower prison, you get to the upper prison, and then you get to the warden's chambers, I believe, where a piety is talking to you. When you get in there, if you don't have Quicksilver Flasks, as long as you have like 3 or 4 town portal scrolls. Use a town portal scroll quick. Click the center of the screen, so as soon as you load into the Lion Eyes Watch, you teleport back into the prison, and then use your Quicksilver charges to run through that area. There's nothing there. I don't even think chests will spawn in there. So there's absolutely nothing to distract you. And as long as you load reasonably quickly, it will be worth having gone back to town to recharge your flasks. Has a side effect bonus of you will have full health and mana pots for Brutus. My next note was simply ice. I believe there was something else supposed to be written after this. I think it was supposed to be Ice Nova with a question mark. I'm going to run off that assumption. A huge group of enemies where you can get right in the middle of them and kind of Ice Nova them down quick like I was doing in the ledge, I think is worth doing it. Otherwise, you're probably going to be better off with Freezing Pulse. Like I said, there's not a lot of videos out there of races with the Witch, so... And just information-wise, I've been looking around for it, I've been searching for it. It's something that people really aren't talking too much about. I know there's some people who are streaming and stuff, so if you happen to catch them, or you're aware of them, like, what's his name? Kriparian? I believe that's how you pronounce it. If not, I apologize to him. He has a couple videos on his channel as past broadcasts where you can watch them as video on demands. Some good information there. He's one of the top players, I'd say. He finished one of the party races as first, I believe. Where is... Let's see, what was the last race? Now I'm looking at events. Another great site too, just while I'm looking this up quick, Path of Exile Statistics, POE statistics.com. While you're running races, it gives basically 5-minute updates on everyone's progress who's participating. And yeah, Kriparian finished first overall in the Season 1 race 16, which was a 3-hour party race. I'm assuming his party members were right behind him, but I don't know who they are, so I'm sure they're up there somewhere. But, yeah, as I was saying, there are a few streamers who will stream the game. I can't stream. My internet is horrible. Yay, crappy Verizon DSL. When the fiber for Fios is laid down a couple blocks away from your house, and you can't get it because they just never actually rolled out the fiber to the home. Alright, enough ranting about internet and people. Or I'm going to touch slightly on people. I can stream. I'd probably stream all my practice races otherwise, for better or worse. Yeah, find people who do well and stream. Kriparian, like I said, is one of them. And otherwise, it's just a matter of trying to find information and figuring out what is working for you. Oh yeah, I should probably talk about the build. I think I'm going to just link it in the description also. And then the Merveil fight. I kind of touched on this during the fight itself. Figuring out how many mana flasks and health flasks you will want. Like for phase 1, I was doing much better with 3 health and 1 mana. I probably could have dropped the Quicksilver flask into my inventory as well if I had one. I don't know if I did or didn't. And then, although the Quicksilver flask does have the advantage, if she's throwing ice spears, you can potentially get out of the way if you end up frozen solid. So it's something worth considering with that. And then for phase 2, you'll probably want more mana pots than health pots, and I don't think there's really a use for Quicksilver flasks in that one at all. You're going to be pretty much killing the exploding ones pretty quickly anyway. So again, just do some practice ones. Get yourself to Merveil, put a portal just outside her lair, at about where you would be, and just do some practice fights. You can probably get 2 or 3 runs in at that same level before you level up again, and you can do a couple of practice runs after that too if you wanted. Yeah, other than that, that's all I jotted down. I can't think of anything else to mention offhand. I think I said I was considering Shock Nova as well, as if you happen to find a Fire Trap or Firestorm gem. Could be worth trying against the squids, because they are cold resistant. Otherwise, I hope this was helpful for someone. As usual, feel free to add me in-game. Message me on YouTube. Yeah, that's it. That's the only... message me on Twitter. Twitter.com/Zayadin S at the end. Zayadins, basically, because somebody registered Zayadin and never used it. Damn them and Twitter for not freeing old names that never get used. Other than that, thanks for watching. Comments and criticisms. Where is that? Comments, constructive criticisms. I can't even remember the word now. Constructive criticism, not constriticisms. Whatever. Are welcome. Another contact message, you can leave comments on YouTube. I will cover that also in a second. I am ranting and rambling at this point. Don't know why. So before I keep going off on some random tangent about nothing in particular, thanks for watching. Feel free to comment, rate, and/or subscribe, and have a great day.